英語研究プロジェクト、よくある間違いを分析します。今回のテーマが時間ですね。英会話ですね。生徒さんが何かのスケジュールについて話しているときに24時間制にする方がたまにいます。皆さんが普段に12時間制というスタイルで時間を表していると思いますか？どうですか？24時間制も使ってますか？本当はですね、間違いではないけど、普通の会話で使ってしまうと何か違和感があります。正直に言いますと。なんでダメなの？と思ってますか？今からそのテーマについて英語で、いろいろと、解説していきますので、最後まで楽しく学んでいきましょう。So we'll look at first at the problem, the reason, the solution, and of course some example sentences. So the clock is ticking. Let's get right down to it with the first point. First, let's look at the problem. I'll pick you up at 18 o'clock. I'll pick you up at 18 o'clock. So just last night, I was talking to one of my students. She's a high school girl. I guess she's 17. She wants to be a flight attendant in the future. Anyway, she went to Disneyland with her friend at the weekend. And I asked her the question, what time did you get back home? And she went, we got home at 23 o'clock. Yes! Perfect! It confirmed my theory that so many Japanese people use the 24-hour clock. When I'm planning these videos, I'm always looking for real-life examples for two reasons. To share the mistakes with you, so you can learn from them. To reconfirm in my mind that I'm not just imagining it. I'll swing by and pick you up. That's great, thanks. What's a good time for you? How does 18 o'clock sound? 18 o'clock? Wait a minute. Is that too early? 18 o'clock? Don't you mean 8 o'clock? No, 18 o'clock. You know, 6 p.m. Oh, gotcha. Why didn't he just say 6 o'clock? So, why do I feel weird when people use the 24-hour clock? Let me explain. Going back to the conversation I had about Disneyland, you remember when she said she got back at 23 o'clock? The moment I heard it, my mind was in a panic. For a split second, I was flummoxed. Even after all these years, it still catches me out. I'll never get used to it. Don't get me wrong, I understand the system, it's very simple. But the use of the 24-hour clock in everyday conversation is more of a cultural thing rather than a language thing. Do I mean native English speakers never ever use the 24-hour clock? No, that's not what I'm saying. But it's only used in very special circumstances. I'm going to break it down into the three most common situations. The military. These military organizations can't afford to make any mistakes with time, so they use the 24-hour clock system. To make it crystal clear, it could mean life or death. The police force. When police officers or detectives are writing reports or discussing a crime, they often use the 24-hour clock. Again, this is to make sure there are no mistakes. Airlines. When you look at your flight reservation, it always uses the 24-hour clock. This is to prevent any accidents with air traffic control and to keep things running smoothly. So how about somewhere like a hotel or a restaurant? Places where reservations are made. Well, it might be written down using the 24-hour clock system, But when people talk, they usually use the regular 12-hour time system and just add AM or PM. Simple as that. So how can we talk about time without using the 24-hour clock? There are two ways. One is more complicated than the other. The first method is by using the digital clock. Easy peasy. 6:50 a.m. or 6:50 in the morning. 2:15 p.m. or 2:15 in the afternoon. 7:20 p.m. or 7:20 in the evening. 11:30 p.m. or 11:30 at night. Remember, when we're talking about night, we always use at. The second method and more complicated one is using past and to. Take a look at this clock. This half of the clock is the past side. Or in American English, you can also say after. But I'm going to say past. The other side is the to side. So we have the past side and the to side. At the number 12, we have o'clock, and then 5 past something, 10 past something, quarter past something, 20 past something, 25 past something, half past something. Now we switch to to. 25 to something, 20 to something, quarter to something, 10 to something, 5 to something. 3:05 would be 5 past 3. 3:30 would be half past 3. 3:35 would be 25 to 4. And 3:50 would be 10 to 4. So just remember, this method is only used for numbers ending in a 0 or a 5. You wouldn't say 3:17 is 17 past 3. No, that just doesn't work. 8:49, 11 to 9. No, we wouldn't say that either. That's just way too complicated. In that case, just use digital or just before or just after. 3:17. It's just after 3:15. 8:49. It's just before 10 to 9. In daily conversation, these are by far the best ways of telling the time. Let's take a look at 5 example sentences. Here's the first one. My phone rang at midnight last night. I nearly jumped out of my skin. So what I want you to pay attention to here is the word midnight. So a lot of people misunderstand what does midnight actually mean. It's only for 60 seconds. 12:05 a.m. is not midnight. 1:30 a.m. is also not midnight. Midnight is only 12 o'clock. After that, it's just night or early morning. For 12 p.m. in the afternoon, we say midday. Again, it's only for 1 minute. All Army personnel must report for duty at 0700 hours. So this is a very special way of telling the time that the military use. Normal people like you and me never use this way of telling the time. Notice there's no colon in the middle. And they always say something like 0700 hours, 1200 hours. You'll see this in the military movies or sometimes even in police dramas, as a lot of police officers have served in the military. What time you got there? Let me just check. It's just leaving 10 past 2. So that's a good expression. It's just leaving. That means it's 1 or 2 minutes just after a specific time. You could also say just after or just before. It's very useful. A lot of men don't get home until after their kids are in bed. It's often as late as 11 p.m. Now, what I want you to pay attention to is the order of 11 and p.m. I sometimes hear people in Japan saying p.m. 11, but in English, a.m. and p.m. is always last. Always. Do you ever find yourself using the 24-hour clock system when you're speaking in English? Let me know in the comments. I'm really interested to find out how people use it and how they think about this particular issue. The next video that you have got to watch is this one right here. It's a very interesting way how to use must. I'll see you over there. Let's go.